Welcome to SuperFast SuperFit videos. I'm David Peterson here, author of SuperFast, Fasting for Super Health. Today we're going to talk about a study done on intermittent and periodic fasting, longevity, and disease. This study is 99.99% positive about intermittent and long-term fasting. So over the course of several videos, we're going to talk about this study. It's a long study and it covers a lot. If you are interested in living longer, if you are interested in avoiding disease, this study is for you. These videos are for you. Reading studies can be very difficult, especially studies on nutrition. And the scientists certainly do not make it easy. They love speaking their scientific lingo. So I'm going to try and break it down for you here. I'm going to try and explain it to you in layman terms, which is what I do in my book. Let's look at this study. First, read the abstract, see if it pertains to you, and see if you want to read the rest of the study. This particular one says, intermittent fasting lasting from 12 to 48 hours and repeated every 1 to 7 days. And prolonged fasting, that's what PF stands for, lasting 2 to 7 days and repeated once per month or less have the potential to prevent and treat disease, but their effect on cellular aging and the molecular mechanisms involved are only beginning to be unraveled. Fasting science is really in its infancy. The science that we have so far, even though it's not very much, there are enough to determine that fasting is good for you. So they talk about, in humans, depending on their level of physical activity, 12 to 24 hours of fasting typically results in a decrease in serum glucose, that is blood sugar. You want that. You want to keep your blood sugar in the normal range. They're talking about 12 to 24 hours. We do longer than 12 hours. You don't really get into the fasted state until 12 hours. So if you only do a 12-hour fast, you kind of cut it off before you start seeing the benefits. So it needs to be longer than 12 hours. And depletion of hepatic glycogen, science speak for sugar in the liver, sugar that's stored in the liver, accompanied by a switch to a metabolic mode in which glucose, fat-derived ketone bodies, and free fatty acids are used as energy sources. Well, I'm sure you understand energy sources. Our bodies need a source of energy. And in this case, they're talking about a metabolic switch going from the fed state to the fasted state. So you're burning fat during this time. Now they get into intermittent fasting, metabolism, and aging. We all want to age gracefully or not at all. And they're talking about studies with mice fasting from 12 to 72 hours. Followed by a refeeding period. Refeeding period without calorie restriction, without nutrient restriction. This is important stuff. Beneficial effects on longevity. If you fast, or at least in this case when mice fasted, they lived longer. Markers for health, stress, and metabolic response. And age-related diseases and tissue regeneration. And fasting helps with tissue regeneration. It's everybody's fountain of youth. It's the fountain of youth. That's what it is. Another mice study shows that intermittent fasting, or in this case, time-restricted feeding, even with a high-fat diet, shows protection against obesity. Hyperinsulinemia, too much insulin in the blood. Hepatic ketosis is fatty liver. So you probably heard of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's what they're talking about. Fasting can help with fatty liver. And inflammation. Inflammation, our modern American diet, the SAD, is an inflammation-producing diet. And improved motor coordination, so you're going to actually be more coordinated. You'll be able to touch your nose with your finger. No problem. Now, you probably already figured out from what little bit we've read that fasting is very good, but it's not all good. They talk about how young and middle-aged laboratory rodents seem to benefit from fasting, and yet elderly rodents don't. So they're concerned about elderly humans, of course. If you are over 65, consult a physician who knows about fasting before you decide to start fasting. These scientists tell us that it doesn't take much as far as fasting goes. A 16-hour fast every day with an 8-hour time-restricted feeding is what TRF stands for, will produce a limited, mild caloric restriction and weight loss in obese adults. So if you have some extra weight and you'd like to lose it, going without eating for 16 hours per day is really the way to go. Drink plenty of water, and you can drink coffee and organic tea during the fast. Then they talk about perhaps one of the most stringent and difficult fasting regimens, which is ADF, alternate day fasting. It comes with a slew of benefits, beneficial effects on metabolic and cardiovascular markers. So cholesterol, your heart is going to be healthier because of fasting. It's beneficial for age-associated inflammatory markers and metabolic regulators like low-density lipoprotein, LDL. That's the bad cholesterol. What about diet, you ask? A lot of people think that intermittent fasting and keto are synonymous. They are not. We here at SuperFast, SuperFit advocate for a whole food plant-based diet. These scientists lay to rest the diet issue. What they say is the quality of macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, protein, and fat. For instance, animal versus plant-derived proteins can influence aging and disease. In fact, high protein intake in adult life up to age 65 is associated with increased risk of overall mortality and cancer-related deaths. This association is attenuated or eliminated, so made less or eliminated altogether when the higher intake of proteins is from plant-derived sources. So if you eat a lot of animal protein, which most Americans do eat excessive animal proteins, you are going toward these diseases. If you are eating plant proteins, you are going farther away from these diseases. That's what science says. People think that they need to take a lot of protein, which are amino acids. And they're saying that amino acid quality, so getting it from plants, not from animals, can have an important effect on aging. We age better eating plants than eating meat. This is what the science says. Don't kill the messenger. And in fact, an imbalance of branched-chain amino acids compared with other amino acids leads to reduced longevity. And a lot of people are eating these animal-based protein shakes that promote branched-chain amino acids. It is leading to a shorter life for anybody who is taking these supplements. I have 3 more videos planned for this study, so stay tuned for more information. But the takeaway, intermittent fasting and long-term fasting, also known as prolonged fasting, is what you need to be doing if you want to be healthy, if you want to lose weight, and if you want to live a long, happy life. Thanks for watching. Happy fasting!